Hey folks, Jason here, and welcome. I have my very first guest presenter today. It's William. He is the creator of the tool that we're going to be working with today, SceneGraph Plus 2.0. And take it away, William.
Thank you, Jason. So we're going to be looking at some new features in SceneGraph Plus 2. And these were inspired by watching a video that Jason did a couple of months back called The Color Outer Space Part 1, where he basically took a Maxis non-recolorable object and jumped through a whole load of hoops in SimPe and made it recolorable by manually doing all the steps. So I thought, hang on, we can code that. So let's code it. And that's what we're going to be looking at. But first we need to look at a few other things. So we're going to review what never got released in versions 1.11 and 1.12. Then we'll have a quick look at what's in version 2. Go over how we need to configure the NVIDIA DDS utilities so that we can use those for creating our textures. Do a review of the actual thing, and then most of this is actually going to be using the tool. I will not be talking to every single slide. You're going to be glad to hear. SceneGraph Plus v1.11 only released to debug. I think only Jason got it. It had a few extra features added, which are on the screen. You can use them, you'll see them, you can refer back to them. 1.12, not sure that was ever released to anybody. It was people reporting bug fixes. One of the most annoying ones was I managed to break accessories by dropping prefix off groups. I think somebody's mentioned that that's a reason that they don't use the fix issues button, but we've stomped on those. So what's new in 2.0? Well, 2.0 is aimed at creating recolours for objects. It allows you to edit directly in SceneGraph Plus the MMATs, the TXMTs, and the texture resource features that you need to do that, while correctly linking all of those edits to the OBJs and the creses, and possibly updating your GMD resource automatically. That's quite a lot. To use the texture import features, I spent a long time trying to find if I could find a DDS utility library that I could encode, and there are pros and cons to using other libraries, and in the end I thought, you know what, I'll just go with the one that SimPe uses. Therefore it's no worse and it's no better than SimPe. And now in SceneGraph Plus 2 there's a new configuration option, the DDS utilities path, where you just point it to the same place that you've installed your tools for SimPe. And I will say that none of what we're seeing today works unless you have advanced mode enabled. And the reasons for that I'll talk to about in a minute. If you can't remember where DDS utilities are, I've stuck the URL there at the bottom of the screen for you. So when we get into SceneGraph 2, what we will see is as we hover now over MMAT, OBJ and various other blocks, it changes the cursor to a little pointing hand. This is an aid memoir that you can actually now double click this box to bring up some extra options. We'll look at those in a second. There is a very slight annoyance that if you move your mouse over a block and leave it long enough to bring up the tooltip, when you double click it thinks it's on the tooltip, so you've got to shift it slightly to double click the block. Can't get around that, it's Windows. So under our GMD options, we can now double click this. The code runs off, it works out if your GMD is currently recolorable, i.e. if it has a TS design mode enabled block in it. If it does, it will tell you what subsets you're using. If it doesn't, it will enable you to create one, and it will fill 2 drop downs with the subsets which are from the GMDC. So no more going into one to copy and paste subset names to paste them into a TS design block, and no more forgetting that once you've created your TS design block you've got to enable it and link it into the main things. This is all done automatically. For the MMATs, we can enable or disable whether it's the default material, and we can also fix which subset it wants to. If we go in to our GMDC and we change the subsets that are recolorable, you can potentially break which subset the MMAT is linked from to something that's no longer recolorable. And if you do that, you have to remember to do it by hand, and this is why these are all advanced options. It won't tell you that you have broken something. You have to kind of know what you're doing and remember to go back and reconnect things. In terms of the OBJD, no more generating random GUIDs. We can pick, if we want the object to be recolorable, we pick the subsets that we want, and we can also create MMATs linked from there. We'll see this in action. This screen grab is already out of date because under GUID you can also change the title and the description of the object. Textures, we can rename the textures, we can duplicate textures, we can import new textures from a JPEG or a PNG, we can do all the SimPe kind of DXT135, applying the filters, the number of levels we want. At the moment it doesn't support RGBA8, so it won't work for alpha maps. But that's just a case of finding a library that will generate those formats, or working out which one of the NVIDIA DDS utilities is actually the correct format to use. But I didn't need it, so I didn't implement it. TXMATs, we can pretty much do everything that we can at the texture level, but at the TXMAT, and this at the same time as creating the TXMAT will also create a linked texture for you. So it's doing 2 things at once. Again, this is what we're mainly going to be looking at, so I'm not talking to this. And there is a huge wall of text here that tells you everything it does, and I will let you read through all of those at your leisure, because we're going to be doing it. So, Jason's video, Color Out of Space, part 1. First thing he did was clone the apple of the eye object. We still need to do this. Well, I've cheated, I've already done it, I've provided it as a resource, and we're going to be starting from that. You still need to create your recolor images, your PNGs, your JPEGs. You know, it's not going to bluify a green object for you. Still got to create those. But what Jason then had to do was, in his GMDC, he had to manually add a TS design block, remember to link it in and enable it, find the subsets in the GMND resource, possibly the other way around, copy and paste them across, set them all up, then import an MMAT, link it to the object, so he needed to know the GUID, pick the subset, link it to an existing TXMAT, so he had to cut and paste the name. Nope, don't need to do any of this. It's going to do it automatically. It will create family values using a hash generator for you, so you don't even need to remember to change those. So that was creating the object and making it initially recolorable. Once you've done that, then for each recolor you want, blue, green, red, purple, you've got to clone the texture, clone the TXMAT, clone an MMAT, change all the instances, hook all these up using the correct names, remembering whether they have underscore TXMAT or underscore texture on the end of things. Do it correctly, you change the file list entries, generate new family values, set the default materials, all of this. Had to do it all manually. It was a very nitty-picky, you had to remember all the steps. What SceneGraph 2 allows you to do is go, I want to recolor and I want to use this graphic and I want to use that. So Let's do it. We're going to... Oh, I always run my tools from the debug environment, so if I get any mistakes, I can see what's gone wrong. So we're going to start up SceneGraph plus 2. And, okay, so I provided as a resource this Big Apple SceneGraph Plus demo initial package. So let's have a look in SimPe what that actually contains. This was created by going into SimPe's object workshop, finding the Big Apple, cloning it, and changing its GUID. And I've tidied it up a bit. So in the OBJD, I've already changed its object file name. I've changed its GUID to something unique. So that we can see it different in the catalog, I've did an initial to the description. And because I hate SimPe's object wizard SceneGraph's names, I've gone through and I've changed all the SceneGraph names so they're shorter. This also means they fit on the screen without me having to resize boxes while I'm doing this demo. And that's very easy to do in SceneGraph Plus 1. I can show people how to do that if they want. Maxis are really lazy, and I've also stripped out a whole load of crap. I've stripped out all the FWAV files from when you duplicate this. I've stripped out the NREF that's no longer needed. There was a redundant T-tab which wasn't linked. I've taken that out. I've cut down the number of strings resources. I've taken out all the animations that relate to kicking the flamingo, which Maxis leave in. And I've also taken out a couple of redundant beehives. So if you actually want a fairly bland object to start from for doing any other clones, you've now got one. That was basically the Big Apple from SimPe's Object Workshop. So what I'm going to do is, so that we can see the differences, I'm just going to copy and paste this. I'm going to take 2 versions. I'm going to rename this up to, first thing we're going to do is we're going to make it recolourable. So all we're going to do is add that initial MMAT and GMDC. SceneGraph Plus is running over here. All I have to do is drag and drop. And it opens it and it displays all my resources. And looking back at my notes, before I've done that, I should have shown you that under the DDS utils path, we're set up. And under mode, we're advanced. This is why we have cheat sheets. So as I was saying, SceneGraph Plus 2, if you now mouse over blocks, the little cursor changes from a pointer to a hand on certain blocks. Yeah, and that means we can double click that block and bring up like a little editor options thing. So because I've made a copy of this and I want it to be visible in game, the first thing I need to do is I need to give it a random GUID. I'm also going to change its title so we can see the difference when we get to the catalogue. Because I've made changes here, I'm now not allowed to do anything down the bottom until I change that. And I double click back in, I can start playing with other things. So changing its GUID, changing its name, done. Because we've made some changes, as usual, the block has now gone bold and with a bigger solid line around it. And the Save All button down the bottom right has become enabled. As I say, we can also go into the GMDC if we wanted to. This allows us to pick a subset for a recolor. Well, because it knows what the GMDC is, it's gone off, it's read the GMDC, and it's populated that drop down with all of your subsets that are possibly recolorable. So no more cut and paste. We could at this point pick this one and go, well, I know that to make an object recolorable, I have to do something in the GMND.
That is so easy.
We could. However, logically, I want to make an object recolorable. So I want to click on the object and pick the subset that I want to make recolorable for the object. I don't care that I've got to put something in the GMND. I want the object recolorable. So as you can see, this one's bold, but the GMND is now also bold because actually making it recolorable at the object had to do something in the GMND, and here we've got the drop down. If I wanted a second subset to be recolorable, just pick a second subset. So, okay, we've now made our object recolorable, and actually we need to make the first recolorable, the first recolor. So again, double click our OBJD, our MMAT area is now active. It knows the subsets that are recolorable. It went down, it read the TS design mode enabled block from the GMND, and it's populated that drop down with what is recolorable. Only one subset, hit create, there's your MMAT. It's bold because it's new. It's correctly linked to the OBJD by the GUID. It from the OBJD, it found the main string, it found the string resource, and it found the model name, and it's linked it to the model name. It then read down into the shape, found from the shape the subset refers to the TXMAT, so that's the Chrome subset. It found that TXMAT, and that's what it linked the MMAT to. It's just gone, oof. I know all this information. I shall find it for you. Just reading my notes. It's also created a random family value in the background because that's what's needed. You may or may not know that you need one of those, but it's done it for you. And because we want it to be the default, if we double click our MMAT block, we can say this is the default, and it's now showing that that's the default. So that's pretty much it. That's how you can now make your initial object recolorable.
That saves a lot of steps. And the MMAT is generating its own hash in the family value.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Did that behind the scenes. You have to do it, but you don't necessarily need to know you have to do it, so it just did it. One other thing that we can do in SceneGraph Plus, I don't know if you know, but if you right-click a texture or a TXMAT block, you can show texture, and it will bring up a little window of what these things are, which as you click on will just go round. So there we go. We've got our first recolor. You know, it's there. That's it. Do you believe me? Proof of the pudding is in the eating. Let's hit save all on that. I've got auto backup on, so I've now got a backup package in here. I could open this in SimPe, but hey, let's start the game. So we'll have a little chat. Any questions while my game starts up?
Not really. That was really straightforward. I mean, it saves a bunch of steps. It's so much simpler.
I was looking at the everything in SimPe. You can edit anything in SimPe, but you have to know what all the little bits here and there. You have to know that you've got to go to the GMND to add a design block to make subsets. You've got to know the subset names. You've got to then get an MMAT and link it to a TXMAT and the CRES. And if you get the wrong GUID because you've imported it and you've forgotten to change the GUID, it's like, bleh. You know, they don't work, do they, Gummy? It just seemed from watching your tutorial that there was so much that could just be automated. You know, the process is I want to make a recolor on this subset. Well, why not have the tool that already understands scene graphs be able to do it for you? So I wrote some code.
Yeah, that is just amazing. What I did in like 10 minutes, it took just a few clicks in SceneGraph Plus to accomplish the same thing.
So
Yeah,
here's
it's so easy to forget one little thing and then it doesn't work.
Yeah. So here's poor Dina on her huge lot that she owns, and I've got 2 apples. So one of these is going to be initial, and as you can see, it's not recolorable, and one of these is called recolorable, and it is recolorable. So that's the one I provided as the starting point. This is the copy I made, which we've just applied all those edits to. And as you can see, it only has one recolor, but it is recolorable. So there we go. Bye, Dina.
Awesome. So much easier.
Yes.
So we've got our default color. Let me just move some of these things around.
I had a question, if I may.
Yeah.
If we want to use the same TXTR, do we just drop that one on the TXMT
If
to link it?
Yep.
Nice. Looks
Yep.
great.
Don't know I just did that because what I actually want to do is clear that out. So I want to take my recolorable package here. I'm just going to copy that, rename that as recolours. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of Jason's lovely blue, red, green, purple. Capital S.
Yeah, I wasn't trying for artistic. I was just doing some basic.
Yeah, I know.
Move the slider in Photoshop.
By the way, if you have used SceneGraph Plus, you know you can pick and move blocks around. If you hold the Alt key, it will take that block and everything under it. Which means that lining these things up can be a lot quicker. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our red, blue, green recolors to this. We've just cloned this, so the first thing we need to do is give it a new GUID, and we're going to change its. I'm going to end up with 3 of these in my catalogue. It's just making ourselves have a new GUID so we don't overwrite the previous object. Right. So we could start playing by adding textures. And we can change the name of a texture, we can duplicate a texture and take an image, we can select a new texture to replace an existing texture with, so that would just replace it. If we change its name and we select a new image, we will duplicate it and pick it up. But usually you don't just want a texture, you want a text map hooked to it. So we have all of those same features at the text map level, and this is where you're pretty much going to be doing stuff. So we're going to add a green texture, so we're going to call it that. We're going to select the green texture, and at the same time as doing all of this, we would like to create a recolor for it on the Chrome. Oof.
I'm sorry, how can you do that once more?
I'm going to do it for red and purple and blue.
Oh, okay.
So we can see that this text mat is green. This one is the brownie color. This is our new texture. This is our new text mat. This is our new MMAT. I'm going to make that the default material because I feel like it. So we double click text mat and bring up our little editor. We wants a new name. So we're going to call it red instead of green. So at the moment, if I click duplicate, it will create a new text mat linked to the existing texture. Don't want that. I want a new red texture as well. So I'm going to select my PNG file from that select button. Yeah, select my red PNG file. Yeah. If I click change, that will change the underlying texture. Even though I'm working at the text mat level, it would run down to the texture and change that from a green texture to a red texture. But because I've also changed the name of the text mat, I'm going to duplicate it. But I'm actually after creating a recolor, so I need an MMAT created at the same time, and I would like that MMAT for my subset that's recolorable. So now when I click create, it's going to create a new MMAT, a new text mat, and a new texture. This one's red. We do it again. The purple. We're creating an MMAT. Then we have another MMAT, another texture, another text mat. And you can probably see down the bottom, this is 5003, 5002. It's correctly allocating new instance numbers as well. So I've just created 3 recolors. So have I really created
It's
3?
way faster than the SimPe version.
Well, you'd have to.
I got one. I'm just not quite as fast as you yet. But if I can get one, I can figure out the other 2.
Get one, you can figure out all of them, or you can also go back and watch it. But in SimPe, you'd have to go to the texture, you'd have to clone it, you'd have to build your
there's so many buttons.
You'd have to select it. You have to remember
all of the TXTR, clone all of the TXMT, clone all of the MMATs.
Yeah, and you have to remember to fix the TGIs because you've changed the names. And you have to remember to clone the text mat and then hook the text mat up to the texture and The reason I wrote SceneGraph Plus in the first place was I hated hooking up textures to text mats, to MMATs, to creses, to shapes.
Doing everything the hard way.
Yeah. And having to remember that from a cres to a shape, it's by TGI, so it's by instance resource group. But from a text mat to a
GMND, from the GMND to the shape, it's something. It's
by
one
name.
of the tabs in the shape. Yes.
Yeah, but is it by name underscore GMND or is it by name not underscore GMND? When you create a text mat, an MMAT, are you referring to the text mat with or without the underscore text mat on the end? I can never bloody remember.
I mean, if I went back and looked into the package, I could probably remember, but it's so much handier this way.
Yeah, I'm a programmer. I'm inherently lazy. I just looked it up once and then coded it. Programmers are inherently lazy. So I've now got 3 objects. One of these is initial. One of these is recolorable. And one of these is called colors. And you can see my... Get out of the way, Dina. See my recolors is green because I changed the default MMAT. That one we can't recolor. That one was the one that we set the basic recolor up for the bronze, and this one is the one I've just added those recolors to. And for some reason I didn't do a blue. Go back and do a blue if you want. So, recoloring objects with SceneGraph Plus 2.0.
It looks amazing. It'll be so much faster.
Yes.
So slowly for Jason to add a new recolor. Well, I forgot to do blue. So I was thinking about, do I do recolors at the MMAT level, but to me a recolor is a new material, so I want to duplicate an existing material and just change what it looks like. So this is why it's all off the text map. Yeah. So I just need to give it a new name. Blue. I'm selecting my blue image and subset that's recolorable, so I'm going to create an MMAT. That would be a blue recolor if I saved and restarted.
I was gonna ask, sorry. I was gonna ask, what does, when you double click the block, what does the duplicate button do exactly if you just click that instead of like changing the texture and creating a new MMAT from that? Is it just like cloning like in SimPe or?
So it's cloned it, but it's also cloned the texture. So I've still got a blue MMAT and I've got a blue texture. So I've cloned it. If I double click this one, which was purple, and I select a new texture as blue, what it does is it changes the texture that's pointing to. It's no longer purple, it's blue.
That's just like changing the.
Yeah.
That's just
and again,
changing it in the TXTR plugin.
It's doing a build DDS or build DXT, whatever it is.
Yeah.
In the texture plugin, but it means that you don't have to go down to the texture to the TXTR to change the image. Yeah.
So if you click the TXTR block, you can't do anything on it. You have to change the texture directly from the TXMT. Oh no, there's also a block for the.
I can change it from the texture block as well.
Okay, okay.
And if I change that name, I end up with an unlinked one.
Okay.
If I change its name, I have to remember this. Is it Shift or Control duplicate?
Not that one.
Not that one. That one. One of them will only change its name
Okay.
instead of duplicating it. But yeah, that's what the big wall of text was about that I didn't read through. It gives all the individual things.
Do you think there's any plans on adding support for DDS textures? I mean the file format directly, because I tend to export directly from Photoshop as DDS already, because the plugin for Photoshop actually shows you a preview of the texture compressed, so I can see if there's a lot of degradation. Oh, you already have it. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. When you click the select button, it's actually saying all images there, and it includes DDS.
Oh,
if you select a DDS file, it will load it in. It does at the moment have to be DXT 1, 3, or 5. Yeah.
Yeah, because those are the compatible formats.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some oddities in the SimPe library code about what it does with RGBA8, and I haven't got to the bottom of them yet.
Okay.
But it's
so if you load a DDS file, it doesn't do any kind of recompression. It just loads it into the
just loads it as binary data. So you'll need the correct number of bitmap levels and everything else.
Oh, you need all the bitmap blocks as well. Yeah,
it has to be a valid DDS file for the game. So it doesn't need all the bitmap levels if you tell it it's only got one level. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
When are you?
that's
Sorry, go ahead.
that's basically it for recoloring objects. There's it's functional. I'm still playing with other stuff around the edges, which we can talk about, and where this may or may not be going in the future. But that's basically it. So any questions on, the color out of space part 1 to the color out of space reader, making non-recolorable objects recolorable? Take that as a no.
Not necessarily about the workshop,
No.
but when are you going to do a general release of 2.0?
Imminently. It will be sometime next week.
Nice.
It's all basically working. There are other features which are on the to-do list, but I can disable that code and release what I've got now, and then I can do a 2.1 release with the new features.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you want to make recolors that aren't in the same package as the object, how would you do that? Or is that not an option? Yes. That is me, yes.
So this is the bit I haven't got working yet.
Okay.
But if you right-click on an MMAT, you can export a recolor.
Uh-huh.
And that will export the MMAT, the linked text mat, and the linked texture into a separate package. Yeah. What it's exporting them at the moment. It's just not getting the links correct. So that's one of the things in process. The difference between extract recolor, as the tooltip is saying, that pulls them all out in SimPe's package.xml format. Yeah?
So you can import them yourself.
Export recolor is going to take them all out into a separate package. It will automatically reopen that package so the screen won't change, but those 3 resources will then be in a separate file.
Okay, because that's going to be really neat.
Yeah, and what I'm working on for you specifically is the ability to shift select multiple of these and go export, and it will create 4 packages for you.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Because for a lot of us who like to keep our CC very organized, we don't keep all recolors, and when they're all in one package, it's so much more tedious than if you can in just game go, nah, I don't love this one, I won't keep it. That's why I think the option to have them separated is worth it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to just do. If I clear these packages out, what I've got is I've got the same object split across 3 packages. So this one is just the objd -cres. Cres is missing, so this is just the object, and its first recolor is actually out in a separate package. And even without the Cres, the shape, the GMND, provided it's I've got an MMAT, I can actually still create a recolor from here, because there's enough information in the MMAT to pick all of this information out. Don't need the mesh.
Does the program tell you when the conditions are met to create a new recolor, or like it tells you you don't have enough resources for me to clone or do something with this?
If you double-click that and the new MMAT is not enabled, this whole section at the bottom will be grayed out.
Okay.
If it can't read the information it needs, yeah. So if we double-click object here, it can't read from the Cres down into the GMND and the GMDC, so it doesn't know what the subsets are, so it won't create you a recolor. You can't make something recolorable that it doesn't know what is there. If that makes sense.
Yep.
I just
Makes
clear
sense.
this out. If I just clear this out again and bring those in. So we got that, we got the recolor. I can't recolor, but as soon as I bring the mesh file in, I now can recolor.
Okay.
And this was one of the other reasons I wrote SceneGraph Plus, was because SimPe's SceneGraph cannot cope with resources across multiple files. And when I was doing clothing recolors, the mesh is never with the GZPS.
Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say though, because we're talking about like making recolors and making objects recolorable, but this is also very useful for people who are getting a package that's all merged and just like deleting the things that they don't want.
Yes,
They
yes,
can
yes.
like
That's why Gummy wants to be
Okay.
able to split all the recolors out into separate files, so she can delete them at the moment.
Exactly. That is why that I suggested that, yes. But
Right.
extra useful now that we can make recolors in it, because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people do still want their separated, but it's also really cool that we can make them merge from the beginning for people who do merge. Like it's useful for everyone. It's great. Love it.
I was already a fan because it's so handy for all things body shop. It's brilliant for accessories, for linking clothing recolors to new clothing meshes. I use it to make shower-proof skin tones, and now it's even more useful for people who make objects.
Yeah, I think Gummy had an issue where she'd got an MMAT file which wasn't linked to the OBJD. If you do that, then this MMAT would link to a grey OBJD block, which would be missing. And you can then just drag and drop them across and relink them. But the thing is, if you go in here and you change the number of the random number or the GUID of the OBJD, because you've got this MMAT open in SceneGraph Plus, it knows it was linked. So changing the GUID there will also change the GUID up in the MMAT. You see how it's gone bold?
Oh,
It
that's
knows that
so much easier.
there are changes there. Again, if I go into the CRES and I change the scene graph name of the CRES, yeah, it's updated the MMAT and the string, because there's obviously a reference in the string to the CRES, in the model name string to the CRES, so that CRES changed, it had to change the string and it changed the MMAT. So, and if I change the scene graph name of the shape, which is it knows that these two are linked by the TGI, the group instance resource number, and it will go back and correctly change the CRES's reference to the shape by TGIR, not by name. So it was for relinking scene graphs, but it's now growing
to much more than that.
That's just
It's
brilliant.
basically like a SimPe replacement for all things making objects and clothes
Well,
and stuff.
yeah, it may get there. There was SG
it's-
was going to jump
In
on this call.
in most cases, Gummy, it is so much more practical than SimPe because
Yeah.
what takes me 15, 20 minutes to do in SimPe, I can do in SceneGraph Plus in seconds sometimes.
Yeah, no, way better. Like I can just see myself a month from now trying to add subsets and it will take me no time at all compared to the usual.
Yes.
This was a file that SG or SG the B sent me. She changed all the names but had forgotten to hit fix TGIR on them. And although a TXMAT links to a texture by its scene graph name, internally it hashes the scene graph name and finds it by TGIR, which is why you have to have all these things correct. And it used to be a case that you had to click on this because it's white, it's got a bad TGI, and you clicked it and then OK, it would suddenly. So what I added was if you now take one of those and you hold shift down while you click fix TGI, it will go around every open block and fix them all. So no more individually clicking, and it's the same for fix issues. If you hold the shift key down and hit fix TGIR or fix issues, it will fix all issues that are currently open.
Wow. Oh, that's handy. I need to remember that the next time I work on accessories. Because what I've been doing is just click each block and hit fix issues. So if
Yeah,
you
so-
shift and hit fix issues, it's going to fix like all of, and the reason it's underlined is because of the file name, correct?
So these two blocks have issues, and what I'm going to add is I'm going to change the mouse over so it will tell you what the issues are. These are almost certainly file lists, which are incorrect. That tab that everybody ignores. As you see, there are two of them which have fix issues. If I select this one, hold down the shift key, fix issues, that one fixed as well.
That's handy.
So it's a
Is
very
that-
quick way of fixing all the file lists.
Is that available in previous versions or only from 2.0 moving forward?
2.0.5 technically, but it will be the release that goes out. So it's what's coming in this week.
I'm going to grab it as soon as it drops.
So
I was going to ask, what about like TXTRs that are linked to the TXMT, but they're not like the base textures? So stuff like specular or bump maps. I assume they are like using the exact same from the recolor package, but is that how it works, or does it also clone them?
yeah, so no, it links them. So it's gone a bit messy, but these recolors, the text map on this thing actually links to a Maxis environment cube. Reflection
Yeah, so
kitchen
that's-
high
yeah.
contrast env cube, and that's shared between all of the text mats. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So
Because I'm not super familiar with like SimPe recolors of objects. I haven't done it a lot of times, but from what I remember, it also clones all the textures that could be shared across the object. So yeah, the specular and the bump map. The env cubes, I don't think it does it for the env cubes. I don't know why, but so that means that SG Plus will be able to how should I say this? It will link to the specular on one package, and then for all recolors, it's going to link back to the master file, if I could say this like that.
yes.
Okay, so you will have one file that is required, and then the rest is as just the optional recolors.
Yeah. If you needed to link to a different, I'm thinking of clothing, if you needed to link to a different bump map for some reason and you didn't want it, what you will find is if you look at this shape, this arrow here is brown because the one file is used by the east wall shadow, the west wall shadow, the north wall shadow, the south wall shadow, and the ground shadow. There is an option if you right click that connector, it's called split multi-connector, and what it does is it creates separate text map copies. That's why they're salmon pink. And I've now got this is the ground shadow, this is the east wall shadow, that's the west wall shadow. So if I wanted to make the ground shadow different, that's that one. I can add another text map and effectively drop all of these onto each other. I'm going to do it. But I can split this and I could have a different shadow file. If we show that. You could have a different shadow file for the ground shadow to the east, west, north walls. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how you could clone an object and give it a different bump map or a different specular. Because the next big thing I'm looking at is how I take this on to clothing recolors. And clothing recolors, as we were talking about, are very different because you've got to add new entries into the 3IDR entry, and you've got to add the number of material overrides. It's a different. Objects only have one or two subsets, and you pick from those.
Right,
Clothing can override any or more of the subsets.
Groups, 4 groups, 5 groups.
So you've got to be able to pick from all the groups that are available, and if you pick a group that's not previously been used, you've got to add you've got to increase the number of overrides, you've got to add a new override subset, you've got to add a new entry into the 3IDR, and you've got to link it up to the text map.
Yeah.
So it's all doable, but this is objects.
Okay.
So that's where it's going. Fixing something for Gummy, and then looking at clothing.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate
I'll do Gummies first. So that's it. It will hopefully be out next week. Really depends how my kittens go.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. I'm so excited.
Any other questions? Can I stop recording?
No more from me.
I also just wanted to ask one last question. This is because I'm very inexperienced with objects, but I assume it's the exact same process for anything that's like build catalog, so doors, windows, and stuff like that. It works the same. Like maybe not fences, but
Probably not fences, but anything that's got an OBJD and a CRES and an MMAT, it will work for the same for.
Okay.
So
then no more questions
fences.
from me.
I
fences
don't
are
get why they made fences
J's, aren't they?
non-recolorable. It's an X. The X resource for fences is XFNC, I believe.
Right. Yeah, but there's a generic X object, XOBJ thing, and the X fence is just a variation of it.
Mm-hmm. That's dumb. A fence is like one of the things that you would want to recolor. That seems like an oversight.
Yeah. One of the good things is once I've cracked clothing, which is a GZPS, XTOLs and XMOLs are exactly the same things.
Yes, they are.
Internally.
And I
they're
believe
all
XSCN as well.
Yeah. So that they're all identical internally. They're all based off something called a CPF resource. So that's it. Thank you for popping in. Thank you, Jason, for letting me do this.
Thank you, William.
Thank you.
That was a
Thank
great
you.
presentation.
This.
Agreed.
Stop using SimPe for making object recolors.
Yeah, no, you convinced me.
I'm sold.
Thank you for doing it. It was fascinating to listen to. I'll have to actually look at the video when it's out.
Yeah, well, we'd rather you drove safely than watched a video, Rachel.
Fair.